Hey, what up, YouTube? I want to make this video real quick, as quickly as possible. But real quick, just so everybody understands, just so everybody knows, why is conference expansion, realignment, why is it a thing that some fans of some teams want? For others, it's a complete, want no parts. I think you have to be essentially a fan of a school where, for the most part, you've seen success, right? And I'm not trying to, shoot shots at any conferences or any teams or no. But what I mean by seen success, we're talking about conference championships. We're talking about national rankings. We're talking about, making it to major bowl games, things like that. Yet, your school is making, in comparison to power conferences, your school is making pennies on the dollar, right? So primarily, when I'm talking college football, I'm talking about NIU, right? That is my alma mater. That is the team I have my loyalty to. I consider myself somewhat of a diehard fan. Like, I really do care about NIU football, their future, the university's future, the town, the city of DeKalb, right? The future of those things. You have to realize the amount of money is life-changing nowadays. It comes with understanding the media rights deals that are essentially a huge thing nowadays. The early 2000s, the early aughts, right? Especially the earlier you go, so once you go to the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, right? Media rights deals, the money, that wasn't really a way or one of the main ways schools were making money. One of the biggest ways schools were making money, essentially, it was game attendance, merchandise, things like that. But media rights, right? We're talking about broadcasting. We're talking about your games for your sports actually being played, nationally broadcast, locally broadcast, whatever broadcast. You get what I'm saying? These telecommunications companies, right? They have money. They have way more money than they did before, right? You have to understand. Teams in the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12 at one point until things kind of fell apart, right? These teams have been accustomed to, at this point, making $30+ million a year just from being in the conference they're in, and the conference having negotiated those media rights deals. Just imagine. Let's say your football team, and let's say even your basketball team. Let's say football, basketball, y'all really aren't that great. Y'all have been having some off years. Your better years are behind you, right? Regardless, you're in that conference, you're getting a piece of the pie. That's how these deals work. You're in the conference, you're getting a cut. These deals are deals that are even essentially made at the FCS level, right? So we have the FBS, right? There's all the big boys in the group of 5 or group of 6 at this point, right? Even at the FCS level, these deals exist. But at the FCS level, it's even less money, right? I'm complaining about NIU and the lack of money that the MAC schools are getting paid out. If you're at the FCS level, that money's damn near for real non-existent. But what people really got to realize is for a lot of schools, a lot of programs, the media rights money, the non-conference games versus power conference schools where they pay them out, like, people don't understand. When you see a team like Alabama go and play, well, not go and play, but a team like Alabama is playing Alabama A&M. A team like Alabama is playing Arkansas, Pine Bluff. They're playing, right? They're just playing smaller schools, right? They're playing essentially FCS opponents, right? Nobody going into that game is like, Alabama may end up on upset alert. No. Those teams are sadly about to play those games. Hopefully they incur limited to no injuries, but they're doing it for a payout. They're playing that game to collect a check. Right? Alabama might have to pay a school like Alabama A&M. They might be paying them $2 million, $2.5 million to come and get damn near abused. Because for Alabama, that's a practice game. It really is. Sad reality. Like I said, I'm not sending shots at anybody, but that's a practice game. For Alabama A&M, it's a battle. I'm fighting to stay alive. But the money that they get from that game essentially can fund their athletics for the year or maybe a couple of years. Yep, gotta understand that stuff. So when you have people who are fans of schools like, I'm gonna just list them off. All right, if I'm a fan of a school like Texas State, if I'm a fan of a school like University of Texas at El Paso or UTEP, right? If I'm a fan of NIU, I'm a fan of Toledo. If I'm a fan of any of those schools right now, I'm looking at what's going on and I'm like, this might finally be the ticket to some better life, right? Why am I saying that? Because the media rights payout for the Mid-American Conference, I'm pretty sure MAC schools get right, estimate. I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it is about $800,000 a year. $800,000 to each team a year. Hold on to that number. Conference USA, similar. Matter of fact, Conference USA, their number may be even a little bit lower than the max number. Sun Belt on the other hand, I think Sun Belt, they might be getting a little bit more than the MAC. But you have to realize the MAC is getting $800,000 a year on their deal. The MAC is one of the conferences I feel like at the time they made their deal, I don't know if they knew or if they had thought or, right, they understood what the future could look like, right? So when the MAC made their deal, I want to say their contract with ESPN goes back to like 2003 or something like that. When they made that deal, I don't think they knew, right, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars would eventually begin thrown around in this game. At one point, the Mac was literally making, I want to say, less, repeat, less than $500,000 per season, payout wise for each school. And when I say less than $500,000, I don't mean like less than, like it's close to $500,000. I'm pretty sure I remember reading at one point the payout to the schools may have been $100,000 to $200,000 a year. Now, this might have been the earlier 2000s, but even then, like that's a low number. From let's say 03 to 2013, that's 10 years. 03 to 2013, the Mac was like, let's come back to the table. Let's work on something. The amount we're getting paid out now at this point versus essentially how the numbers have seemed to risen, $200,000 ain't gonna cut it. Like, come on, let's get something a little bit better, right? Our teams, they're competitive. At this point in time, keep in mind, at this point in time, NIU was doing stuff nobody had expected, right? Around this exact point in time, you got Jordan Lynch and NIU, and I'm pretty sure, like I said, you just got stuff going on at NIU that nobody is expecting. Like, we are dominant in football. I'll go as far to say that. Like, there was Boise State, and then right underneath Boise State, NIU was up there when it came to non-power conference teams. NIU could have played with anybody, right? They had a squad, like, for real. The Mac comes back to the table with ESPN, and that $200,000 a year per team payout got up to $800,000. Since 2013, that number has been the same. Let that sink in. Since 2013, it is currently 2024. It has now essentially been over 10 years since that contract has been expanded on, renegotiated, whatever you want to call it. The contract that the Mac is on right now expires in 2027. So we still have a couple years until this is done. The Mac, out of all the group of 5 conferences, for the most part, that I know of, they may have gotten the worst deal out of everybody. I truly believe they did. I think the Mac locked in to a deal for so many years, like, it's not even funny. Like, you have to realize the deal that the Mac ended up locking themselves into was long enough where you literally had people who could have a kid in 2003, and then their child could be on their 4th year of college at this point. Just imagine that. Just imagine you're a student at NIU, right? You're a student at NIU and you have a kid. So many years have gone by now at this point that your child is now a grown adult, graduating from college probably. That's how long of a deal the Mac was locked into. That's how long they've been in what they've been in with ESPN. The Mac and the way things are going, it is not looking like, at least not in my eyes, I do not envision or see the Mac getting any level of respect that they should, right, when it comes to pay. If the Mac over these last 20 years had been getting a payout of, let's say, even $3 million a year for their teams. A lot of the schools in this conference significantly would have, they would have made some significant changes. There'd have been a nice chunk of growth. Like I said, it has been 20 years. 03 to 2023. 20 years. Like I said, just imagine that deal in 2013 went from whatever number it was at and jumped up to, okay, we're going to pay y'all enough where every year from this point on to this point, all of your schools will be able to get $3 million a year. Even just for them 10 years, from 2013 to 2023, that would have been $30 million into the pocket of an athletic program, of a school. That's a nice little chunk of money. That's a nice chunk of money. Over 10 years, $30 million. Right? Like I said, power conferences, it's almost crazy to think if you look at the numbers nowadays. The power conferences, I just said 10 years, and they, a school could have made $30 million. The amount that the power conferences make, that's 1 year. That's 1 year they could make that $30 million. So you have to understand these numbers are life-changing. These numbers are life-changing in these power conferences. So yeah, when you have schools like Northern Illinois, Toledo, Texas State, UTEP, who are like, you know what, I'm going to take the opportunity that's being presented with all this conference realignment and expansion and rebuilding that's going on, right? Mountain West, the PAC. Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to join them because the conference I'm in right now, yeah, they're paying out $750K. I'm going to go join the Mountain West, and potentially we could potentially see a payout of $5 million or more. Right now, the situation with the Mountain West Conference is this. They are getting cherry-picked, or they've been cherry-picked by the rebuilding, rebranding, whatever Pacific Athletic Conference. Mountain West lost 5 teams. They're trying to get back 5 teams, at least, I would think. The first team that it seemed like was on that list that they had interest in was Texas State. I want to say that they've actually offered Texas State a spot, right? They've been invited, I believe. With that happening, you then started hearing reports about the Mountain West having interest in Northern Illinois and Toledo, but as football-only members. To me, I'm taking that deal. That's a blessing in disguise, because for a school that geographically is not nearby, really, the rest of the states in that conference, if I were to become a full member for all sports, I now have to figure out transportation for all of my sports to compete against all these different teams. If you do football only, your main primary concern is transportation for at least 4 games, 4 away games. That's it, right? Your transportation for for your non-conference games, like that's additional, right? But that's something you got to do. But remember, non-conference games, those are things you work out long in advance as the other. So NIU would be in a situation where it's like, okay, right, we want to have a non-conference game against Ball State. We want a non-conference game against Miami of Ohio, right? And you can alternate that, right? Those are teams that are essentially rivals of NIU, right? There's an actual trophy on the line. Okay, it doesn't hurt for NIU to schedule those games. You might as well just schedule them every year as non-conference games. Have that rivalry continuously going. You just alternate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Those are games where you know you don't have to fly. Those are games where you know we can take our charter bus and we can go to Muncie, Indiana. We can take our bus and go to Oxford, Ohio. Right? We don't have to fly to those locations. And then, of course, we're going to want 2 home games. Right? We figure those out, you know, whoever we're going to play. But that's non-conference stuff. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the conference games. If the Mountain West Conference, which, in all honesty, I'm confident that they may be able to do, they may be able to actually get a decent new media rights deal because their contract expires in 2026. I think they'll be able to get either something pretty much similar to what they have now, or like I said, a little bit more. The whole point of these media rights deals, like I said, the numbers, because the numbers keep changing, the numbers are essentially going up. I'd be kind of shocked if a new media rights deal led to some sort of super significant drop for the Mountain West. If anything, at the minimum, I think the Mountain West will be able to get the same deal they currently have. And then hopefully for the MAC, when 2027 rolls around and they go to work out a new deal, hopefully that number is significantly higher than what it's been the past 10-something years. Right? But like I said, NIU and other schools, it really ain't fair to just keep sitting there waiting. You've had successful teams over these years. You've won conference championships over these years. You've gone to a damn Orange Bowl. You beat a number 5 ranked Notre Dame. Like, they can't keep sitting here and, right, here's the beautiful thing about a school like NIU and even Toledo, right? For the most part, they're making something out of nothing, right? Toledo this year, they went and beat the hell out of Mississippi State. Beat them. Straight beat them. Right? Mississippi State is getting a nice chunk of money every year. Toledo is getting about $800,000. Mississippi State, from media rights alone, is getting more than $30 million a year. NIU, Toledo, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, it don't matter which school it is. If they're in the MAC, they're only getting about $800,000. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm bullshitting. Maybe I've been fed the wrong numbers. But I am pretty damn sure that the MAC payout has only been about $800,000. That is the exact reason why NIU has always scheduled these games against these power conference teams. The game against NC State that NIU just played, that game alone paid out $850,000. The game against Notre Dame, that was widely publicized. Not only did Notre Dame lose, NIU just collected a $1 million+ check from them. You love to see it. NIU needs to get out of the MAC. And in all honesty, it's not even just about getting out of the MAC and, specifically going to the Mountain West, or in all honesty, it's getting out of the MAC. And your goal should be, maybe it's the Pacific Athletic Conference, maybe it's the Mountain West Conference, maybe it's the American Athletic Conference. The AAC, for the most part, is the more realistic fit. It really would be. But like, NIU is in a position where it's like, they just need to go somewhere else where they can get a piece of the pie and actually start making some stuff happen. If NIU had been able to get out of the MAC 10 plus years ago, they probably would have been potentially on the bubble to be joining a power conference by now. They could have been there at this point. The power conferences, I learned this a minute ago. I just pay attention to trends. The power conferences, once expansion really became a thing, there's only really two things going on. When they're not taking teams from each other, right? When you don't have Texas A&M leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC, Texas leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC, right? When you don't have these schools leaving other power conferences, right? I want to say, like, what was one? I want to say Maryland. I want to say Maryland. Was Maryland in the ACC? I want to say, what, Maryland left the ACC and joined the Big 10, right? Right. Other than that, they typically are almost specifically pulling from the American Athletic Conference, formerly the Big East, or the Mountain West. Now, it's been more from the Big East, more from the American Athletic Conference technically, than from the Mountain West. From the Mountain West over time, it's been TCU and Utah. From the American, on the other hand, it's been a nice little significant number of teams that have now moved up to a power conference. UCF, Cincinnati, SMU. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but technically on paper, the Americans doing pretty decent when it comes to teams, I guess you can say, graduating and moving up to these bigger conferences. NIU, Toledo, Texas State, any school like that, their only hope really of ever making it, you have to get out of the Sun Belt. You have to get out of the MAC. You have to get out of Conference USA, right? You just have to. The money isn't really there in those conferences. I don't think you will ever see the SEC pull directly from the Sun Belt. You will never see the Big Ten pull directly from the MAC. You will never see the ACC or the Big 12 pull directly from Conference USA. It just ain't working like that. Like I said, NIU at this point, NIU and Toledo, right? Because I'm kind of pairing them together. They need to think or look at what's available. Based on what's going on with the Mountain West and the PAC, in all honesty, the Pacific Athletic Conference is setting themselves up to have the best media rights deal in comparison to the Mountain West. A lot of people may say, well, the reason why the Mountain West even had the deal it had was because, they had Boise State, they got Fresno State, they had San Diego State. They had schools that people watch. They had schools that people, right? Those are essentially your biggest teams in a sense. So there's a lot of speculation and belief that, the PAC just took the teams that would have gotten you a better deal once your deal expired. The PAC also still has Oregon State and Washington State. PAC may be on to something. But the problem is the PAC is struggling a bit, it seems like, when it comes to reeling schools in. Once again, the PAC doesn't have a media rights deal. The PAC won't be able to negotiate a media rights deal until they have their schools. So you just got to think about it a certain way. The PAC is somewhat better aligned or better positioned to essentially get a better deal, but I think there's just a bit of fear of straight up going to a conference that don't even have a deal at all. Like there's a bit of fear there, right? A lot of conferences right now are like, do not leave, stick together, do not go to the pack. Do not leave, stick together, do not go to the pack. Right? The Mountain West teams that are left came to that agreement. The American Athletic Conference teams have come to that agreement. They're like, nobody's going to leave and join the pack. So that puts the pack in quite a weird spot. It really does. Because the pack, they are one team short. They need 8 teams. Same thing like Mountain West. The pack needs 8 teams at full membership to meet the minimum requirements. It seems like they're struggling right now to get that 8th team. Sadly, once again, NIU and Toledo, the odds of us being able to compete as full members, sadly, is low because we just aren't at the point where we can do that type of transportation, right? That would hurt us more than we want to say. But football only, hands down. I'm almost more for NIU and Toledo joining for football only than I am for them joining the Mountain West. Because like I said, I do truly deep down think a newly reformed pack, whatever they might rebrand to, I don't know, right, has the potential to get a pretty decent deal. Their deal might be closer to what the American Athletic Conference was able to get. But the thing with them, they may be able to even get more because of Oregon State and Washington State. I think those two get the pack just a little bit more, just a wee bit more. And then you got Boise. You got San Diego State, right? You got Fresno State. They got some names. They got some teams. So it gets real interesting there. Like, you got to understand, UNLV would have been the last final piece to that puzzle. I'm not going to lie. UNLV would have been the last best piece for a newly revamped pack. And then once you have UNLV as a full member, now the pack can be like, okay, we want to fill out the rest of this. Let's truly evaluate and look at everybody that's an option, right? NIU Toledo, maybe they just get a few more teams from the current Mountain West, right? But like I said, things went a whole total different route. But like I said, it's getting real interesting. It's getting real interesting. Current updates on the situation, right? I know I'm 30-some minutes in. Current update on the situation. I believe from what I'm hearing, Texas State did essentially get an invite to the Mountain West. I believe it was verbal. I believe it was just verbal. Probably something more formal is coming up soon. And with that, you're now hearing UTEP is the next team on the radar. Right? That's the next team to essentially get, looked at. And it makes sense. They need the full members, right? They need the full members. They were at 12. They lost 5. We can do the math. What did that bring them down to? That brought them down to 7. But here's the thing. They need 8 full, repeat, 8 full members. You're sitting there thinking, don't they have 7 members? It's easy to forget Hawaii is a football only member. So in reality, it's almost like you're really looking at this like they have 6. So it's almost like they really have 6 teams or 6 full members. No, they do have 6 full members. So when you look at it from that POV, they're at 6. Texas State would make it 7, and then UTEP would make it 8 full members. Football, right now we can add Hawaii back. And then let's say now you're looking at who the hell is left in the world. You're looking at the Sun Belt, you're looking at the Conference USA, and you're looking at the MAC. And you're trying to find teams who are the most competitive teams in those conferences. Here's the beautiful thing. When you actually look at Sun Belt, Conference USA, and the MAC, because the MAC has been so consistent for so long, right? They've had that core number of teams. And because the MAC, out of those core teams, 2 of the teams have been essentially very dominant over the last 20 plus years, it's NIU and Toledo. So it probably didn't take much for the Mountain West to be like, okay, let's look at the MAC. If we were to invite anybody from there, who would it be? Just for football. MAC got NIU and Toledo. Okay. If I'm looking at Conference USA, at this point, they already are pulling for UTEP. Here's the interesting part about Conference USA. You have New Mexico State there. New Mexico State is sitting right there in the Conference USA. But the thing is, New Mexico State isn't necessarily a strong program, right? Like, they've had a few good seasons, but they're not really a strong program. So I feel like that's the reason why it's been somewhat possible to kind of overlook New Mexico State, right? You would think that New Mexico State would have been the most logical choice, but in reality, it's like the conference needs to make themselves as competitive as possible because it's all about the media rights deal. That's just the truth. So technically, you could put New Mexico State on that list, but is that your first go-to? Like I said, if you have your 7 teams, you add Texas State, you add UTEP, you add NIU, you add Toledo, you need one more. It gets real interesting here. It gets really interesting. Is that one more going to be New Mexico State? Is that one more Sam Houston? Right? Is it Sam Houston? And that's the thing with Sam Houston. I want to say Sam Houston just jumped into the FBS. If I remember correctly, I don't think they've been around super long time. So, but location's key. Sam Houston is in Houston. That is a media market. That is one of them top markets. It would be kind of crazy to not think about it. Plus, they actually have a pretty decent football team, it seems like. So maybe Sam Houston's an option. If you look at the Sun Belt, you kind of snagged or targeted the only team you really could. Like, Texas State was the only one that you kind of really could try to get for full membership, right? Because if you're going to get a school for full membership, you don't want them too far. Like, they can't be too far away where they can't get to these other states, right? So Texas State was like just right there, right? They were just right there. And then, like I said, you add a UTEP. Okay, now we have another in-state team, right? Okay, this works. So it's not just one Texas team. You have 2 Texas teams. they also have the potential to do divisions. So it actually works out even more. It works out even more. You do divisions, you have a Mountain West, East and West. That would seem like the best option, the best route to go, since you're kind of expanding a bit. You're kind of going a little bit further east than you really wanted to have to go. I say you maybe go after Sam Houston, if that's possible. New Mexico State would be, like I said, no shade at New Mexico State, but that would be kind of more of like a desperation, like, okay, we prefer to have 12 teams and not sit here at 11. Okay, New Mexico State, right? Come on for the ride. Like I said, you got NIU and Toledo. Here's your Hail Mary option. Here's your Hail Mary option. Your Hail Mary option is UTSA. Why is that one a little difficult? Well, it's a bit difficult because UTSA is currently in the American Conference, and the American Conference pays out a little decent amount of money, right? It pays out a decent amount of money. The American Conference knows exactly what their media payout is. They know exactly what the split is. So the thing is, you would need a better deal to get a team like UTSA to actually leave and join. You would need a better deal to get a team like UTSA to leave the American and join a rebuilt Mountain West. And I could see it happening. Like I said, if you get to 12, or maybe you want to do 14. If you do 14, at that point, you leave me the only true route you can go if you're going to do 14, you're going to have to add 2 FCS schools. If you're going to add 2 FCS schools, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, right? That's probably what it's going to have to be. North Dakota State, South Dakota State. But if you just make it to 12 and stick at 12, and y'all are able to get a fairly decent damn deal done, then here's what I'm looking at. If you get a solid deal, renewed, extended, whatever on paper, and that allows you to snag a school like San Antonio from the American, like I said, you do divisions. Help your teams out. You do divisions. I know a lot of schools, a lot of conferences now, they're just doing the whole, I want to say round robin or whatever. There's just no divisions. It's just like every year the thing changes around, right? Maybe you try divisions, and then after a little while, you switch to what kind of the rest of the world is doing. I know Sunbelt still does divisions. Sunbelt, they might be one of the only conferences left that's doing divisions, now that I think about it. But you do divisions. Like I said, you have your Mountain West East and your Mountain West West. Your East would be NIU, Toledo, Texas State, UTEP. If you can get UTSA, like I said, I feel like that would be huge. So that's 5 right there. Who am I missing? That would be a little bit more to the east to make it work. Maybe New Mexico. Maybe New Mexico has to be a part of the east. I want to say that works. It seems like it works. Because then when you look at who's left, you have Hawaii, the two Nevadas, so UNLV and Reno. Hawaii, UNLV, Reno, San Jose State. Wait, I'm trying to do the math on this one. Hawaii, San Jose State, Wyoming, UNLV, Reno, and Air Force. There we go. Air Force. I feel like you keep those 6 together, and then you have your other 6. And there you go. That works. It actually works to me. That works. Like I said, it makes the travel way more doable, because now it could potentially be, NIU has some conference games. We know 4 of them will be away. You know you're going to have 5 division games. So maybe, your division, your inter-division games, you got 5 of them, so 2 of them could be away, or 3 of them could be away one year, and the next year it switches, like you make it work, you figure it out, right? But that helps, right? If NIU knows they have a game against Toledo, then they know they don't have to go that far, right? And vice versa. Toledo knows they don't have to go super far, right? They've done that back and forth plenty of times. They know what the drive is from DeKalb to Toledo, Toledo to DeKalb. They know what it is. NIU going down to Texas. Okay, we got UTEP this week. We have a home game against UTEP, but then we got an away game against Texas State. Right, that's actually more of a straight shot from north to south. That's not that bad, travel-wise, right? Maybe you bust it down there, or you just take the flight. But it's not as bad going basically directly from the north, straight shot south for a school like NIU. Yeah, it works. It works a lot better. Even if you can't get UTSA, let's say it ends up being New Mexico State instead. Okay, even then, you can still divide it up, do your divisions. You got New Mexico State, Texas State, UTEP, Toledo, NIU. That's that division. That's the East. And then your West, like I said, Hawaii, San Jose State, UNLV, Nevada, Air Force, and did I say Wyoming already? I'm pretty sure Wyoming is the last one I meant. Right? It works out. It works out. With the pack, if NIU and Toledo join the pack instead, that one's actually kind of interesting too, because the pack is actually more of in a situation where they only need one more team as a full member. They need one team as a full member to get to 8. And then they can essentially add 4 more. And they could do football only. They could do, maybe they add a few more teams as full members. But they can essentially do football only. Right? They could do football only. I think if the pack wants to go a certain direction with things, though, if they're going to expand into the East, I think you kind of create a situation where, yeah, it's going to get real interesting. Because the pack that's another one where it's like, who do they even add? Do they target some of these American Athletic Conference schools, right? And then when you do that, once you get to 12 total members, do you division it up, right? Do you division up for a couple years so the teams that aren't super far from each other can at least play each other, let some money stack up, and then you switch to round robin format and just everybody plays each other on random years and whatnot, right? Who knows? But there's endless possibilities here right now. There's endless possibilities. My main thing was, I just need people and hope people understand and get the benefits at the end of the day of leaving a conference like Texas, like the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the MAC, like the reason why. Right? I just need people to understand the reason why. Right? Even with NIU, I'm like, NIU has been in so long. I don't even know if NIU has like any real exit fee. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really got a clue. Like what would the NIU exit fee be? Something, I'm sure, but I don't think it could be any ridiculous price. Like if the exit fee to leave the MAC is something crazy, I would be that would be mind boggling. I'm like, like the exit fee from the MAC has to be maybe a couple $1,000,000 because for the media rights payout to only be about 800K, but in order to leave the MAC, that's 10 mil. That's absurd. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at all. Yeah. I think we got some interesting days ahead. I don't want to say things are gonna move super fast, but it's like at this point, you want your team, especially if it's one that's kind of under the magnifying glass right now. If your team is one of the teams that's like, we might come and poach you, right? You kind of probably want your team to do well. I wish NIU was 4-0 right now and ranked because that would make a huge difference in these situations. I think if that was the case, NIU was 4-0 and still ranked right now, they'd be getting way more attention than just the Mountain West or the Pac, or, right, they may pop up on a Big 12 radar in this situation. You never know. The odds are slim to none. It's most likely that wouldn't happen. But for the Mountain West to be thinking, or potentially for the Mountain West to be like, we're trying to bring in a ranked NIU team right now, it's gonna force a couple other conferences to kind of look and be like, NIU beat Notre Dame, they beat NC State. The way they're looking, they probably might run the table, right? I mean, I know that's not the reality anymore. We clearly shot the bed, but that would have led to an interesting situation if NIU was still undefeated and ranked right now. It would have led to something interesting going on, because bringing in a team like that does not go, like that it brings a bit of, so please leave your comments, like the video, right? Give me your thoughts on things. Who do you think, or what route do you think the Mountain West is going to go? What route do you think the Pacific Athletic Conference is going to go? What do you think the domino effect is going to be? Do you think potentially, maybe, who knows what, some schools could be leaving the Big 12? Some schools could be leaving the American. Is Florida State still going to try to leave and go wherever Florida State is trying to go? I don't know. But definitely leave some comments. Like I said, this whole expansion thing, like this stuff is getting a little bit crazier than I think we ever expected it to get. I don't think anybody saw the Pac-12 imploding, right? That's what really created the situation, is the Pac-12 imploding. Nobody can really say they saw that coming. So, peace.